What's going on, guys? Danny, your Wi-Fi astronaut, back here again today with another video with a special guest. We got Garrett from All Out Amazon. Garrett, how are you doing today, man?
My man, life is good. Miami, sun's out. Life is good.
Sun's out, guns out for Garrett. All right, we're going to have to be passing this mic here back and forth, so it might be a little awkward, but we're going to get a really good interview with Garrett going, talk about Amazon, sourcing, some real tangible stuff. Garrett told me before this.
Wait, we're talking about Amazon.
Yes, we are. He told me before this he wants to talk about tangibles, real things that provide value to people, not just the backstory fluff.
I just feel like the background story is just so boring. Like, that's how every interview starts is, oh, how'd you get started? What got you interested? All that good stuff. But
all right, well, we are going to start with those questions because we have to. So, Garrett, how did you get your start into Amazon, and where did you kind of like figure it out? Where did you first learn about it, and then how did you get your start into it?
man, I think I started how most people started who are going to be listening to this video is with books, right? I got exposed to it through social media. This is back 2.5, 3 years ago, obviously before COVID. Looking for stuff to do on the weekends. Obviously, we didn't have much, right? So on Instagram, saw a couple different content creators putting out content in terms of, oh, you can go to Goodwills, you can go to thrift stores, you can go to library sales, buy books, buy something for 50 cents and sell it for 15, right? And so that was the thing that kind of caught my attention in the beginning. And from there, I just kind of jumped right in, right? I'm not necessarily the type of person that's going to contemplate something over a long period of time. If I want something, if I'm thinking about it, if I want to do it, I'm going to go after it and make mistakes as they come, right? And so that's kind of how it happened. Started going to Goodwill, started scanning books. The book operation started slowly for me, mainly just because I wasn't super interested in it. Like, the whole idea of going to a bookstore, scanning books, wasn't necessarily doing it for me, right? And so that got me in. That exposed me to the potential of Amazon. But that next step came when I started to look into OA, right? And again, that being already in the Amazon space, that was kind of a smooth transition in terms of already being exposed to that sort of content. Now it's a matter of learning about this whole thing that's called OA, right? And so that's learning about YouTube or listening to YouTube videos, starting to understand the basics of Keepa, the technicalities in terms of absorbing all that information to make that profitable decision, right? And so I transitioned to OA within the first couple months, and from there it's just kind of been aggressively scaling from there.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing, is starting with books and then transferring to OA or transitioning to OA. I think that's what a lot of people have done. I'm not really sure if that's the recommended path now, but I know for me, you, Miles, and a few other people, that's kind of been the key to success, is being able to fail really cheaply with books, learn those mistakes and face those consequences when you make mistakes, which you will do, and then you transition everything to OA or wholesale and move from there. But so right now, are you primarily online arbitrage, mix of online arbitrage and wholesale, private label? What are you selling? What business model do you practice on Amazon?
Yeah, so we run a hybrid model of OA and wholesale. Our main focus is continuing to build out our wholesale sector, but also acknowledging the fact that there's just so much low-hanging fruit in the OA space that it doesn't make sense to completely forget about that. Obviously, we're blessed to have that sort of spending capital where we can pick up on those opportunities with no losing a step in our main focus of wholesale, but that's what we run. We run a hybrid model of OA and wholesale, and that has been going super well for us.
Yeah, I think it's extremely obvious and prevalent that you can make some serious money with online arbitrage right now. We interviewed on the Buy Box Bandits a guy who was doing, it was like $10 million a year, right? OA, which is, I didn't even think that was possible.
I mean, one of our good friends, Miles, right? He's obviously a Buy Box Bandits host, and he's only focused on OA, and he's making, or selling, not making, selling 150, 200, 250,000 a month.
No free clout for Miles. No free. He doesn't retweet my stuff anymore. Thank you, Miles.
He's too cool for us.
No, I'm joking. He's got way too rich. Anyway, so you're in business with a partner, right? And I just want to ask one quick question about this, because I know I get a lot of DMs from people who are starting up, and they may not have a lot of money, so they choose to partner with someone who may have money. What has your experience been? Also, talk about who your partner is, and then what has your experience been working with a partner? And then any advice you would have for people that may want to go into business with a partner.
Yeah, so my situation's probably a bit different than the standard partnership. My partner, my co-founder or co-owner of the business is my brother, Dylan. Um, and you kind of alluded to how we started, right? I started the business. I came up with the idea of Amazon. I got it going for 6, 8 months, etc. And then I kind of hit a crossroads in terms of not being able to acquire that extra spending power, but having the technical knowledge to be able to continue to grow, right? And Dylan at the time had the credit, had the capital available to start to try and implement that, right? So we kind of combined forces. He brought the capital, I brought the knowledge, and that kind of was the origination of all our Amazon in terms of what we do together and in terms of how we're building this business. But in terms of like general partnership, it just is imperative to first identify who's doing what, lay out the foundation of the different roles in the business, everything that needs to get done, who's going to do it, and the time frames that it's expected to get done, and then just that fluency of conversation. Conversation, communication, being on the same page is going to be crucial to the organization of the business, right? That's going to be paramount to any sort of success or not or lack of success that you have, right? So conversation, communication, and just being on the same page day in and day out, week on and week out, in terms of the daily tasks and the micro, but also the macro, where you want to be, what's the expectation of the business, and what the goals are for the business.
Yeah, because when I get the DMs, so I think your situation is unique. Obviously, you have a good relationship with your brother. Not everyone does. So in your case, it worked out well. But when I get DMs from people, and they're asking if they should go into business with like their buddy or their friend, and let's say they both don't have a lot of money and they both don't really have a lot of knowledge on it, I usually tell them both start your own account and just kind of work together. Similar how me, you, and Miles did in the group chat for like a year, FaceTiming like every day. Similar to that, I just think.
Well, that's how Dylan and I started. We both started with our own account.
Okay,
and that's
right.
why when people ask if we have multiple accounts, so we do have multiple accounts, and it started from the fact that we both started together, and then we just conjoined activity towards one, and having one as sort of like a backup.
Nice. So going from where that is now, we'll get into some nice juicy questions here that Garrett wants to talk about. Garrett, how do you qualify an Amazon product? How do you qualify a winning Amazon product?
Yeah, so it's a sort of like a trifecta of factors, right? Obviously profit, how much can I make from the product from a margin perspective as well as an actual tangible dollar perspective. The second factor is how often can I sell the product, the velocity, how many times per month is that product going to sell for us? And the third factor that I don't think gets enough credit is just ease of purchase, right? That's a lot of the value in going to wholesale because that ease of purchase is super high, right? You can go back to your supplier, purchase hundreds and hundreds of units without any sort of cancellations, lack of supply, that sort of, generally speaking. And so it's those three factors: ease of purchase, profit, and velocity. Specifically for us, our margin is about 10% minimum, and that's kind of lowered as our spending capital has grown. We could talk about that later as well, that sort of relationship of opportunity cost. Tangible dollars, about $3 to $4 per unit in terms of profit, after fees, everything like that. Velocity, we're looking to sell 60, 70, 80 units a month, right? Acknowledging that this Amazon thing is a volume game. We're not looking to move 5 units, 6 units, 7 units a month, right? Because each listing I think of as added exposure, right? Anytime you go on a listing, it is a liability to your business from an IP complaint perspective, from just a product tanking perspective. There's different levels of exposure, and every time you go on a listing, it's added exposure, right? So we want to gain the most bang for your buck of that added exposure, being that we want to sell those units, sell that product thoroughly, right? So 60, 70, ideally 100 units minimum per product, and then that ease of purchase. We don't want to be sitting there at the computer ordering 3, 4, 5 units on repeat for hours, right? We want to be able to order 50s, hundreds, multiple hundreds per time, and that's a super valuable aspect of a product as well. If we can purchase 500 of those units in one shoot, that's going to put it at a higher scale in terms of ease of purchase, rather than something that I have to run 3s, 4s, 5 units of multiple orders.
Awesome. That was a fantastic answer. That was a great answer. My next question is, how have you used VAs, or otherwise known as virtual assistants, to grow and scale your business, and what would you recommend, or what would you say to someone, any piece of advice for someone who's thinking about getting their first VA as their first real employee?
Yeah, so it's all about valuing your time, right? And acknowledging the fact that what's the biggest green activity in your business? It's going to be sourcing and buying warm products. Warm as in things that have been audited, things that come from other seller storefronts, things that come from store or sources that you buy from consistently, related products to what you're already selling. Those are warm products. And the more we can source and buy warm products, the better our business and the faster our business will grow, right? So acknowledging that that's our primary focus, we need to start looking at outsourcing everything else. That's going to be sourcing from cold sources, right? Things that we haven't bought from before. We want to be able to use that VA to scan that list, casting a wide net, looking at other sources, looking at other stores that we haven't purchased from before, cold sources that we don't have that highest conversion on in terms of finding those products, and repurchasing, right? Repurchasing is just a cheap activity that we can outsource, right? So we use VAs to source in cold sources, repurchase, that sort of thing. Anything that we can put a monetary dollar about, we do it. And obviously, using a prep center is not a VA specifically, but it's another aspect of outsourcing. Prepping inventory is a $15, $20 an hour activity, but sourcing warm products is a multiple hundred, if not $1,000 activity. Well, which one should we be doing? Anytime you're prepping a product, anytime you're stickering something, you're doing a $15, $20 an hour activity when you should be doing something else. Whether it's building your business, whether it's working on something else, whether it's spending time with family, right? It's all pertinent to your situation, but it's all about a scale of value in terms of what you can be doing, what you should be doing, and what you should not be doing, right? It's all that conversation.
Yeah, 100% with the, sourcing products is the highest ROI activity you can have in your business. That, and if you don't have enough capital, trying to find more capital, that is also a high ROI activity because, you can't get inventory without capital. So where having a VA and basically outsourcing that time, what number of months has that taken you from to where you're at now? How much has that helped you grow in your business in a quantitative view?
Man, that's a tough question. I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily have a solidified answer for that. But I mean, for me, the VA decision was pretty easy in terms of I just have a lot going on, right? I run, I train, I hang out with friends, I like to watch sports. I do a lot of things that aren't necessarily around the business, right? So that adds value to my time over a VA's time, right? And so, I mean, it definitely sped up the growth because we had that extra capital to leverage. So we needed to add products to the catalog. That's where VAs come into play, right? VAs are very good at following directions. They're essentially puppets, right? So if you have a good foundation, if you have good processes, that VA is going to succeed. On the other hand, right, if you are hiring a VA expecting them to outperform you as the owner, as the business manager, that's not going to be the best method for success, right? They're good at following directions, and if you have good directions for them to follow, it's going to work out very, very well for you.
So it sounds like the biggest thing for you with the VA, and honestly, this is probably me too, is that it just gave me back a ton of time.
Yeah, whether I use that for the business or not, that was my decision. I just knew I didn't want to be doing $10, $15, $20, $25 activities when I could be doing anything else because I value my time much, much higher than that, as I think you should as well, or you do as well.
Right. Thank you. What did Romer the Romer say at that conference? Do you remember the first one?
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
It was, what was it, $10,000 an hour?
Or something.
Something a day? Yeah. No. But I took that kind of to heart.
Yeah,
I think it was $1,000 an hour. I think that's what he said. I think it was $1,000 an hour. Which honestly, sourcing inventory, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. You should be valuing your time at $500, $2,000 an hour, especially when you're able to source inventory and you could pretty much legitimately make that.
But I mean, that conversation doesn't stop at business tasks. It then extracts itself to every other aspect of your life. Doing laundry, mowing your grass, all those sorts of things you can put a monetary value at. Mowing your grass, I pay my grass cutter $50 per cut. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? Doing your laundry, that's another monetary value that you can then just simply calculate.
Unless it brings you some sort of happiness.
Yeah.
I know some Amazon sellers who tell me like they just like doing the dishes for like an hour because it helps them think.
I mean, whatever
Yeah.
suits them. I mean, that's their decision. I mean,
Yeah.
that's their personal preference.
Right. I have another question for you here. What would you say to the beginner Amazon seller right now who's watching this video and is struggling to get their business off the ground? Could be struggling to find products, but what would you say to that person who's back in the trenches right now and just trying to figure out a way to make it work?
Persistence, man. It's just time in the game, right? The first step, the first domino that needs to fall is drilling down on the technical data, looking at Keepa content, looking at Keepa data, and being able to consume that information, and you leverage that to make a efficient and accurate product sourcing decision. It starts there. Right, the difference between a business doing 10,000 and a business doing 200,000, it's not as drastic as you think. They're making the same decision. They're looking at the same data. They're looking at the same information. It's just one business is making a little bit larger purchase orders, right? So it's the vision in terms of you got to just drill down on the technical skills, on your technical data, and it's really just one. It's being able to source profitable inventory. Once you have that, then it's just a matter of acquiring more spending capital. And acquiring money is not as hard. It's 2022. It's not as hard as it may seem in terms of gaining additional spending capital. And obviously, you know a lot about that, right? So are you fluent in making product decisions? If you are, then you're 3/4 of the way there, right? Then it's just rinse and repeat in terms of finding and acquiring more products to buy, buying them, and then finding more.
Very well said. And is there anything in your Amazon journey that you regret or maybe you did wrong that you can maybe help someone out right now who might be doing something wrong? Is there anything you could, off the top of your head, that you may have done wrong or anything you regret?
Regret's a tough word. I don't really regret much, right? Because I just think it's all part of the journey, right? You learn from the failures, you learn from the mistakes, and I wouldn't be here today if I didn't learn from all those things. But in terms of mistakes, we all make tons, right? We make mistakes every day, right? That's part of growing and adapting and growing again, right? And I think myself in terms of, and just as much as most other Amazon sellers, is just there's a couple of decisions that you'd obviously like to have back in terms of specific products. We all have them, right? In the beginning, more so in the beginning rather than as you continue to grow. But there was definitely a few products that I went too deep on in the beginning, didn't source and didn't evaluate all the different metrics that I should have, and I think that's kind of standard in the industry in terms of just getting started, inadvertently buying stuff. But I think that's really a lot of where the mistakes lies in terms of, and they still happen, right? I mean, we're not perfect. We're always going to make incorrect, inaccurate product decisions, and that's kind of the nature of using historical data to make predictive forecasting decisions, right? It's not a perfect science. We're just evaluating and being able to use as much data as possible. So there's always going to be gray area. There's always going to be mistakes that happen. In the beginning, I definitely made a lot more of those, though.
What I would say to that, the person who's struggling right now to get their business off the ground, I would say that pretty much the same thing is you have to drill down on your technical capability. The absolute most important thing is sourcing profitable inventory. Even if you don't have the money yet, when you can prove to someone that you have profitable inventory and you can explain it in a logical way to them, you'll be able to get money, whether it's from a friend or a family member or a creditor. You'll be able to obtain capital if you're finding legitimate, profitable inventory that you can explain logically to someone. But I think that about wraps up this quick little interview here with All on Amazon. Anything else you got to say to the people?
First of all, if you haven't, go watch all of our Buy Box Ban episodes. I think we have, like 70-something, 80-something at this point. And interviewed a bunch of top dogs in the industry, so go watch those. But like we've talked about, right? Just drill down in the micro about sourcing profitable inventory, and the rest will just fall into place.
All right, you guys heard it here. Learn how to source better and take risks. Don't be afraid to fail. You will make mistakes. See you guys in the next video.